Hey everyone, this lesson is us doing a quick little lesson on graphing lines. The previous lesson that we worked on was slope, identifying slope from a graph, being able to figure out the slope as it being rise over run, being able to figure out slope from 2 points using the formula and all that. And now we're going to go one step further, and instead of slope, we are going to focus on lines. So slope is just a part of a line. Before we get started, we're going to recall from lesson 1 what the slope formula was, and hopefully we all remember that it's m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So from any two ordered pairs, we can figure out the slope, and you always want to simplify, and if you have a negative over a negative, it will become positive, and if you have a negative on only top or bottom, it's negative once you combine like terms, of course. And anytime we have a negative on bottom, we try to bring it up to the top. Another thing that you might want to write down on top of your paper is that when 0 is on top in your fraction, that's okay, and it just equals 0. And when 0 is on bottom in your fraction, that's a big no-no, and that means that your fraction is, or your slope is, undefined. First thing we're going to go over is how to sketch the graph of each line if we were given a linear equation in slope-intercept form. Slope is your rise over your run, or your change in y over your change in x. Change we find by subtracting. Intercept could either refer to the x-intercept or the y-intercept. In slope-intercept form, the intercept that we're referring to is the y-intercept. So in these little sketches and everywhere I talk about a y-intercept, I was just highlighting with yellow. What is slope-intercept form of a line, you may ask? Slope-intercept form of a line is y equals mx plus b. X and y just stay as they are, as x and y in your equation, unless you're plugging in a number to figure out the corresponding value in the ordered pair, of course. M should be filled in with the slope, and B should be filled in with the y coordinate of the y-intercept. If it's plus something, that means you have a positive y-intercept, so it's going to be above the x-axis. And if you have minus a number, then you have a negative y-intercept, and that means it's below the x-axis. If you don't have anything here, that just means that your y-intercept is 0 or the origin. So when you have an equation in slope-intercept form, you are just going to go over to your y-intercept first and put a point there. Then we're going to apply that slope second in both directions. We're going to see an example like this in just a minute. We also want to be able to sketch the graph of a line, though, when it's given to you in standard form. What's standard form? Standard form looks like 𝐴𝑥 plus 𝐵𝑦 equals 𝐶. There's two ways that you can graph from standard form. Option number 1 is going to be change this into slope-intercept form. How do we do that? Well, first, what we're going to do is bring AX to the other side. I don't want to say subtract, because if AX was negative, you're going to add to the other side. So you want to be careful. And A might be 1 or just negative, it could be a little weird. So we have a couple examples. So we could bring it to the other side. Second, we're going to divide everything by B and reduce everything, all three things. And you go from there. The second option, I'm going to show you while we do an example, but you basically find your x-intercept by plugging y equals 0 into the equation and then solving for x. So it's a little squished. And I'm just going to write short vice versa. You'll find the y-intercept, vice versa. You'll find the y-intercept by plugging x equals 0 into your equation and solving for y. Plot two dots. Connect the dots like little kid style, and arrows. We don't do this one all the time because sometimes the intercepts are a little annoying and inconvenient. So hopefully you jotted these down. This little advice, hit pause if you need to, and then we're going to do these examples. Here we go. This first example, the directions say, sketch the graph of each line, clearly indicate the slope, x-intercept, y-intercept, if when applicable. Oh, and I almost forgot. What does a positive slope look like? If you have positive slope on your line, it's going to look something like this. Negative slope will look something like this, obviously tilted whatever way, higher, lower, steeper. Zero slope is going to look like this. It's a horizontal line. And it always reminds me, it's like the top of a Z for 0, And an undefined slope will look like this. And it kind of looks like the side of a U for undefined, okay? So that's a little clue. And then N for negative, little advice right there. And then this is how you write your intercepts, okay? X-intercept is a number. You put the number here that you get, comma 0, and the y-intercept is 0, comma a number. And we always write those as ordered pairs. Sorry, I almost forgot. Back over here. This is in slope-intercept form. We said first we go to the y-intercept, that's 1, and then we apply our slope. Up 2, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In our last lesson, we said -2 over -5 is really the same thing. Here's where it comes in handy. Go down 2, 1, 2, left 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then all you have to do is draw a line with arrows at the end. Indicate our slope. Well, the slope was 2/5. My x-intercept doesn't look like it's passing through a nice number. We didn't put a dot there. So I'm only going to write out what my y-intercept is, and that was 0, comma 1. I'm done with number 1. Number 2, anytime you get x equals a number, all you have to do is go to the x-axis, find that number, and if it's x equals a number, it's a vertical line. That's up and down. So all you do is draw a vertical line straight through whatever that value is. And that's all there is to it. Indicate your slope. If it's a vertical line, the slope is undefined. Next, x-intercept. My x-intercept is going to be, 1, comma 0. And my y-intercept, I don't have one. That's a 1, by the way. It's a little smudgy. Sorry about that. And that's the end of example 2. Similarly, we have number 3, which is y equals -5. All I have to do is go to the y-axis and find -5, put a dot, draw a line, and stick on some arrows. Your slope of a horizontal line is 0. I don't have an x-intercept, but my y-intercept, use colons after your intercepts, okay? Don't put an equal sign. I'm going to write 0, comma, -5, and we're done. Here, I'm going to show you this one using my cheap trick. If I want to find my x-intercept, I'm going to fill in 0 for y. I'm going to cover it with my finger. 2x equals 6. I'm just going to show my work. Divide by 2, and I get x equals 3. So 3, comma 0 is my x-intercept. Put a dot. What about my y-intercept? That's where we said we plug in 0 for x, cover it up. I'm left with positive 3y equals 6. Divide by 3, y equals 2. y-intercept 0, 2. Then, again, this is my cheap trick for standard form. Connect the dots, put some arrows, and we're done. I could figure out my slope by just counting out boxes. Down 2, right 3, so it's -2/3. That's the end of the examples I want you to worry about. You also could have changed this by putting it into slope-intercept form. Bring over the AX. Advice is always put that in front. So we have 3y is -2x plus 6, and then divide everybody by whatever's in front of the y. You get y equals -2/3x plus 2, and you would graph that just like we graphed number 1. Don't worry about these two examples. I hope that this helps you do your assignment.